Hello there, I'm Matt and welcome to this very special bonus episode of The Tyre Kickers. This time, it's not the usual back and forth and sarcasm. Instead, we're kicking the tyres and saying happy birthday to a unique British roadster, the Sunbeam Tiger. Now, the reason for this is this year marks 60 years since the Sunbeam Tiger first rolled off the production line. It was a marriage between a British sports car and an American motorsport legend by the name of Carroll Shelby.
There's a lot of designing, testing, and trial runs behind every new innovation or new performance record. How do I know? My name's Carroll Shelby, and performance is my business.
Now, Shelby's trick was to fish out the 4-pot Alpine engine that was already there, and in its place wedge in a 4-litre American V8. The result was a pocket-size British hot rod roadster. About 7,000 Tigers were made, and around 300 or so are still active on UK roads today. But last weekend, over 100 Tigers gathered in Warwickshire to mark the 60th anniversary, and we as the Tyre Kickers got an invite to go and see them in person. I caught up with Andrew Yates from the Tiger Owners Club in front of his beautiful, near-perfect blue Tiger, one of the very last to be made. And I asked him why he thinks the Tiger is so special.
It's that low-down torque, it's that grunt, it's the knowledge that you've got so much power at the end of your foot, but also, you know, the fact that you can jump in the car, go to Tesco's, get your shopping, sit in traffic, not for too long because it gets hot, but you've got that acceleration from, you know, very low down to very high end without having to shift the gears continually. The Ford small block engine really is a work of art. It was designed for, you know, cruising the strip in the US, and to drop that into a quintessential British sports car, which is what we're standing in front of here, really is the ideal combination in our opinion.
Sometimes when I pull up in my Alpine at classic car shows, people don't know what it is. Do people know what a Tiger is?
No. Most people think it's an Alpine, if they know anything about Alpines. You often see when you're maybe in traffic or you're at a petrol station, people walking around the car and they spot the V8 badging and then they spot the twin tailpipes and they're just like, is that an Alpine? And you explain that it's got a V8 engine, and sometimes you get asked to prove it, you know, pop the bonnet, show me, I can't believe there's a V8 engine in such a tiny car. So, you know, quite a different thing than an Alpine, but obviously not dissimilar.
Most people, if you said, think of a British classic car that's got a V8 in it, think of a Stag. What's different about this car?
Handling, acceleration. Stags sound amazing. They've got that low-end rumble, but the Tiger's just a completely different, just a very, very different audible tone.
It's American power, isn't it?
That Ford
muscle
V8,
power,
the
yeah.
muscle power that you hear in a Mustang, a GT40, an AC Cobra. It's exactly the same engine. It's pretty much exactly the same setup, and very, very different than that kind of Rover V8 derivative that came out of a Buick. It's just a different sound, a completely different audible tone. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Stags. They're absolutely beautiful cars, but Tigers just sound so different, as you're hearing now in the background.
There's one starting up. I mean, that's a racing one, but they're all aggressive sounding cars anyway, aren't they? You've got your bonnet up here. Let's just have a look at this engine underneath. And we'll talk over that as that goes, because why not? I mean, it is wedged in here, isn't it?
Absolutely shoehorn. I'll tell you a funny story. If you took the car for a spark plug service, you used to be quoted 6 hours of labour. 6 hours of labour because you cannot get to the spark plug that is wedged underneath the firewall. The only way you can get to it is through an inspection panel in the footwell, and you had to have the right kind of tool to poke that in there, and it was a real fiddly job.
In the 70s and 80s, you could pick Tigers up for, you know, a few £100 sometimes. Looking at all these Tigers here now, sort of over 100 of them, 60 years on, the values are very strong on these now. The desire to have them is very strong. What is it about the Tiger that endures, do you think?
Well, for me, I mean, first of all, just look at it. It's such a beautiful car. It's everything that epitomises a quintessential English sports car. Secondly, availability of parts. I mean, panels and some of the specific bright work a little bit more challenging, but all of that running gear is available from a variety of places even today. So very, very easy to maintain. We've got a great network of specialists here in the UK. These cars were cheap cars only a few years ago, and they've probably, tapped out in terms of reaching their peak. But I can't think of a better value for money experience than a Sunbeam Tiger. A fully sorted car, £50,000-60,000. It's not going to go anywhere other than north of that in the future.
Talk to us a bit about prices. What does it cost to get into a Tiger now? What's a good one? What's a really good one? What sort of figures are we talking about?
Everything in relation to UK cars revolves around the condition of the bodywork, really, because the rest of it is easy to solve. It costs the same amount of money to do bodywork on a Ferrari as it does to do bodywork on a Sunbeam Tiger. Whichever way you slice it, if you're looking at extensive bodywork, you're talking tens of thousands of pounds with paint and welding and all of that kind of stuff. To jump into a pretty decent usable car, £20,000-30,000 gets you there. 40, 50, 60,000 pounds for some of the better cars. The rarer cars, the Mark IIs, you're into 80, 90, 100,000 pounds. There are a couple of cars at this moment in time been sold in the US for in excess of $120,000, particularly the Mark II cars.
And where do you see the market going for the Tiger now?
I think it's stabilised. I think the interest in the 60th year is gonna at least leave values buoyant, if nothing else. As it stands right here, right now, it constitutes an amazing value for money, amazing punch for the pound.
Nice. We're quite an honest podcast. We talk about the realities of owning classic cars. What's the reality of owning a Tiger? They must leak. All Roots Group cars leak all over the floor.
They leak oil.
Well, they mark their territory, don't they?
They mark their territory, yeah, like any thoroughbred animal.
Does it get hot to drive?
They get hot to drive, but again, you can fix that. Bigger aluminium radiators, Kenlo fans. They're quite favourite optional aftermarket extras. It doesn't like getting stuck in a traffic jam.
Sure. What old car does?
You definitely need a drip tray at home for the garage floor.
Right.
Don't park it on a neighbour's drive and expect sympathy. Put a little bit of cardboard underneath. But I mean, this is the joy of owning a car. It's 60 years old. 60 years old. I mean, it's an old girl. And even though these cars are very shiny, every single owner in this car park knows exactly what they're getting into here.
Now, as part of the 60th anniversary, a new documentary's also been made to tell the Tiger story. It's called Le Mans, Shelby, and Two Smoking Tigers, and features Jay Leno.
The Tiger is aspirational. It's a car you could afford, because you couldn't afford a Cobra. Even at the time, they were expensive, way more. You really couldn't get the Cobras, and the Tigers were available.
Anything associated with Carroll Shelby, that was the real deal.
That was Carroll Shelby's catchline, unleash the Tiger.
Now, Josh Good is the guy behind the film, and he told me what inspired him to want to tell the story.
It was just a great yarn. There was stuff happening to this car that you couldn't make up, stuff that just didn't happen to MGs or TRs. And I always loved, most of all, the Le Mans part of the story. Roots went to Le Mans with a Ford V8 prototype. They had a valiant go at it, and they failed substantially. I always thought, maybe at some point I'll come round and make a couple of films about stuff that's close to my heart. And when COVID came along, that's when I thought, right, I'm going to launch this project about the Sunbeam Tiger and tell the car's story.
Josh Good there. Now, the film is still being finished off, but if you do want more info, you can go to their website, which is berlinettafilms.com. Well, that's about it for this bonus episode. Thank you very much to the Sunbeam Tiger Owners Club for having me along to their event and getting to see all those tigers up close and personal and hear them as well. It's definitely a case now of see it, want it. We're back soon with episode 13, all the usual banter between me and Max, going through the classifieds as well and talking about some more great classic cars. But until then, bye-bye.